much. Nothing much to be said after you, in fact. I think you framed the conversation very well with putting a face to the urban agenda. I think that's very much the spirit of this process, and I think that's very much where the civil society consultation is very important, because at this stage is very much about reminding that what cities is about at the end of the day is not about roads and bridges and public spaces only. Come from a place where I believe that the ultimate objective of any city is to build a community. And building a community doesn't happen only with infrastructure, it happens with the mind infrastructure, it happens with social infrastructure, where you connect peoples and relations, and you create a middle class that is willing to and able to build this community at the end of the day. So I think that's what we talk about when we refer to the urbanization. Some people refer to it sometimes as a challenge or as an opportunity. I think it's a phenomenon that we have to manage. It's not a problem that we need to solve. It's something that we have to manage, and we have seen some countries and places managing it way better than others. I think the whole point of having Habitat 3 and the new urban agenda is to basically put forward how cities should look like in the 21st century, and how can we really center around people and people center in every sense of the word. I think in relation to youth, I dare to say that youth issues are the urban issues, and the urban issues are youth issues at the end of the day. If you look to the figures, the numbers, the projections to the future, how many youth will be living in urban areas, and also to the centrality of the many challenges young people face. And in fact, there are not only issues of employment and education, even things related to violence in the context of urbanization are also youth issues to a large extent. So the crime and all the ups and downs, the two sides of the stories, I think it comes down to that word, how we are going to ensure well integration for youth in the new urban agenda. So I think this new roadmap and new vision that is being outlined has to speak to the reality of our world. It's a very young world that will continue to be young for some time now. Some of the estimates here that we read in Constant Note talking about even a much younger cities by 2030. And I think that's a huge potential, a huge opportunity for this new agenda. So sometimes it goes like unnoticed, this whole potential and the demographic element, which I find it amusing, to be honest. How sometimes we put agenda without factoring in who lives in this planet in the first place, and that you have this many young people. This is not going to be for aliens or for other creatures. It's for human beings who are this young and this demanding, I would say, as they get more connected. The last thought I have here is very much about, at a time where most of the challenges and the opportunities are deeply interconnected in our world, that's what's even more important, why we need a global agenda for urbanization. Most of the issues from climate change to issues of crime, peace and security, regulatory trade, are all deeply interconnected. I mean, no city alone, no country alone can manage these issues without extending cooperations and bridges and channels, and without standardizing, if you will, like putting some norms for how this business needs to be done in the future. We will not be able to optimize basically all the new cities and the new population who will be moving to urban areas. I think that's where the Habitat 3 is very important, because it says that vision in a world that is deeply interconnected. The experiences and the knowledge sharing would be even more relevant, and putting an agenda that could be measured and could be inspiring, not disappointing, because I understand with the disparities we see in the world today, with the inequalities, some of the ambitious agenda could not be always inspiring, but rather disappointing, and because this reminds countries of how of a gap exists now between where they should be and what they have right now. So I think this agenda has to factor in also that we do have this disparity, and we do have this big gaps that we need to invest in the human potential in order to develop the cities. It doesn't happen the other way around, by the way, and I'm more concerned sometimes with having a proper mind infrastructure full with the skills and with the right knowledge that could ultimately develop the city's infrastructure. So putting the emphasis only in building bridges and roads is not going to get us there, basically. So that's again shows why this conversation around youth is very important to the context of the urbanization, because it talks about basically the recipe for developing the urban agenda and developing the urban areas that is very accommodating to this very thirsty generation of young people who wants to be connected, wants to be well served, and they want to basically not to struggle with the basics of the basics, which is getting to work or getting to school, or from transportation to peace and security in these settings. Plenty of questions that comes down to really what we deal with the youth agenda. So that's to say again that youth issues are urban issues, and to a large extent, and will become even more relevant down the road. So putting a visionary, ambitious, realistic, pragmatic, put all these adjectives basically for the agenda is very important, and this could not be really crafted without the full participation of civil society, among civil society groups, youth organizations, and youth groups. That's to say that UN Habitat has been doing a fantastic job, and particularly in testing new models where it could be replicated by many cities. The Urban Youth Fund, for example, is one example where shows if you invest with a bit of seed funding, with a bit of money investing youth-led initiatives and projects, what the results could be. I have witnessed some of these results, and almost they call the example of Matar and Nairobi, with some of the youth projects supported by that fund of UN Habitat. Some funding, really, I mean, they yield miracles, not results, with what young people were able to use with $4,000, $5,000, that sometimes would not be enough for a coffee break in a conference. For a youth group, this could be, they could do miracles for their communities. And I think that's also a good reminder for us as we discuss this agenda. It's about people at the end of the day, and that's what the only worry I have sometimes when we talk about the urban agenda. We immediately drift to a very technical, futuristic kind of plans, while we forget who is going to do it in the first place. So that's the balance that this conversation brings. That's the balance that discussing youth in this setting brings, and that's why I'm very grateful for this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, both your amazing comments, and really, again, framing what we're looking at here in this, what we call the dual trends. We have rapid urbanization, where we're seeing more and more cities come online, we're seeing mega cities come online, but parallel to that, we also have this growth of the youth population and young people moving to cities. So we have youthful cities. Cities are young people, and cities are youth, especially when we're talking about the developing world. So it's some great context from the DED and the Envoy. As we have many speakers, and I also know the DED and the Envoy might have to leave soon, so I'd like them to give us maybe a little bit of time to...
It's a comment, because it feels like a musical chair sometimes during lunchtime. There's so many side events and many good conversations, but not to say that we speak and we go, but just we have to defend ourselves. Just like, because there are many good conversations. But I'm just very grateful for having this conversation. Thank you.